Hey guys, I'm back. Guess what? Happened again, man. Just after midnight. Click bottom right here so you see full screen. This is the Z cut looking straight down on the planet. All these solar wind numbers, speed numbers, being measured by these GOES 13, 14, and 15 satellites. 15's up there too, and of course a whole bunch more. All the weather satellites are up there, etc., etc. But anyway, they're orbiting the Earth at 22,236 miles. So all this space weather stuff that we're getting for these ISWA simulations is coming from these satellites, the data coming from these satellites, what they measure. So here's the two Fock radiation belts. Got those two synced. This one's at 100,000 electron volts. This one's at 4 million electron volts. The reason I got these two up are this is the lowest number where ionization begins to occur at 100,000 electron volts. Electrons start becoming stripped from atoms that are present, and that's called ionization, which produces radiation. And at 4 million electron volts, that indicates the presence of a nearby star, because you don't get that kind of electron voltage. And if anyone remembers Astral Traveler way back when he was making videos, all his videos highlighted low energy field. And he would even call the object X a low energy LEF object. Well, that's because all these Fock radiation belts were just picking up stuff in the low ranges. He was even showing like the real low ones, 5, 10, 20. But the last year or so, or maybe more, but ever since I've been making vids, when my channel came back online in mid-January this year, the electron volts are huge. So that indicates presence of a star. Before it was further away, so I guess we were just getting low electron volts from Nemesis. But now it's pretty darn close, as you can see from all this backside pressure coming in. So I'm rambling here. But anyway, I just want you to understand that these numbers aren't coming from out here at ACE and Discover, where the two satellites are out here in order to safeguard the planets and all the satellite electronics and read all the solar wind data coming from the sun, so that we have maybe 15 minutes to an hour to power down the satellites, at least anyway. I know about the electrical grid. I'm not sure if they have any solid plans on what to do there, but I'm sure they got something in place. But anyway, this is 930,000 miles in front of the planet. Of course, the sun's 93 million miles out this way. So all these numbers that we're getting on ACE, on ACE and Discover, here's ACE. This satellite went up in the mid-90s and measures the temperature, wind speed, solar wind density, the phi angle, which is key. This indicates also some magnetic field angles. And the further south this one gets, the further in the minus column this one gets, the more chance we have of having auroras. And you can see we got an 2100 to 0700. That's a little past 0700. So we got another 10-hour plus minute gap. And then here's Discover, which went up about 20 years later. So of course all of its instruments and software and so forth are 20 years better than what went up in ACE, but they still do the same thing. They measure the temperature, solar wind speed, density, phi angle. So you can see the solar wind speed, the last 24 hours, it was up in the high 300s, and it's been steadily dropping ever since. Now it's down to, wow, 289. That's pretty low. But at the same time, so the solar wind's dropping, so we have the solar wind density starting to pile up out there in front of ACE. Now this happened before, and I'm going to make a prediction here in a second. You can see we got a strong backside connection with Nemesis, because anytime the phi angle is above 180 degrees, that indicates a connection with something behind, a solar body behind the sun, behind the Earth, I'm sorry. And this is the solar ham space weather tutorial. I have it in my description box. Just click that, and you can also access that L1 Lagrange point I just showed you. But I'm predicting that something like this is going to happen again. This density is going to pile up, and then maybe it's going to get released whenever this phi angle connection goes back to more of an Earth-Sun dominant connection, which would take it down around 180 or below on the phi angle. See, right now it's, and it has been like this for several days, but it looked like it was flirting with going down around 180 there for a while. Some instability, and it might be getting unstable here. But this is what's happening. So that's why the solar wind density is starting to pile up. And I'm going to show you why I'm saying that. Because look here at Enlil. This is their this is the same place where you get a lot of this other, the geospace one I showed you. You get it on here. And these are all the other things you can access, all their products. But this is the Enlil one, and this gives you a prediction on what they expect to be coming from the sun in the next several days. I got it stopped around mid today on the 13th, and you can see they have the solar wind speed, radial velocity, pegged at, well, it's well over 500, so I'd say about 550 maybe. And they got the solar wind density pegged way down here. That's below 5. But the actual real numbers are way lower on the solar wind speed. Say at least 50, close to 50% lower. And the solar wind density is close to 50% greater. So here's what I think's happening due to this strong backside connection with Nemesis, which actually runs from Nemesis to the Earth through the big planet or planets out in front of Earth, and then it connects back to the sun. So like I pointed out before in several other videos, and most recently on those ones where the CME occurred on 12/27 and knocked out some power grids in Queens and down there in Kenner, Louisiana. And then another about 10 days later, something similar happened again, but the solar wind density on the 27th of December went way up to 54 plus. So whenever that released, that was a lot of density came and hit the Earth, and that's what knocked out the power grids. Then on January 7th, I believe it was, the density went up again, and we had a similar effect, but it was a similar action. However, the density only got up to around 38 atoms per cubic centimeter. That's what this is measuring. Normal solar wind density between 4 and 6 atoms per cubic centimeter. So this is what I think's happening. We got the phi angle been running well above 180 for at least a week, I think. I'll have to go back and show you. So that indicates connection with Nemesis behind the Earth, because if it's 0, it's pointing from the Earth to the sun, and if it's 180, it's pointing from the sun to the Earth. And when I say big planets, here's the last MLSO run from yesterday. It's about a 5-hour run, and they got it sanitized. In other words, they peeled off the first few layers, so we're not seeing that debris field flying around. These are like 2-minute time lapses. But look at these big planets in here, which I think they're planets, and look how they're moving. So, I mean, they're getting bigger, in my opinion, and they're showing more movement. So that would indicate to me that they're closer to the Earth. And of course, people have been catching some shots of some pretty interesting stuff in the sky lately, and I showed you that Cocoa Beach solar eclipse about a month ago now, close to a month ago. Well, it's been ongoing down by the Mediterranean. If you can access any Mediterranean webcams, or in Spain, somewhere around the Mediterranean, you're going to see something that looks like a darkened sky, like there may be an eclipse going on. They took down that Cocoa Beach camera. Can't access that anymore. But there's the objects. So let's get back here. I'll show you the event. Happened again right after midnight. There's 11 minutes after midnight UTC. There it starts at 31 minutes past, 8:08, then it jumps to 11:35, 9:54, 12:83, 10:11. I'm reading these numbers up here. These are 4-minute jumps on here. 8:51, 11:25, 10:26, 11:20. It went down to 7:83, 10:15. Look at all this plasma being ejected. So what I think's happening is, I don't know, Nemesis is a brown dwarf. It's supposed to be 4 to 5 times the density of Jupiter, perhaps, but since Jupiter's a gas giant, Nemesis would be probably a lot smaller. So I'm thinking maybe it's making a revolution every day now. That's how close it is. And maybe we're getting an IMF, since we are connected, roughly speaking, due to this phi angle I showed you. We're getting maybe hooking up a coronal hole, small coronal hole on Nemesis. This thing lasts about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. It's gonna pop again here. Yeah, one more time. Okay, so it lasted about 2 hours this time. I'll just start it playing again, and we'll let this I'll drag this one through for you. So it started at 0:31. Ooh, whammy. So every, like clockwork, man, same time, same station. Right after midnight, we get about a 2-hour, roughly a 2-hour event of high solar wind speeds coming from Nemesis, has to be, and they're being measured by these satellites in geosynchronous orbit. I don't know what else I can say on that. Oh, I noticed something interesting last night. Yeah, this is on that SWMF RCM. Gives you like a snapshot. You can pick up current conditions, polar cap. Look, polar cap. There's the magnetopause, Z cut looking down, and the Y cut looking across. But what I noticed is these times don't jive. So these must be projections somehow. They're not real time, because, okay, it's 8:47 right now. If you add 5 hours to that, it should be 13:47. Look at this, we get 15. So this thing's projecting at least an hour ahead. I don't know what the heck's going on with that. It's very strange. So here's the last 7 days on Discover. You can see we've been running a pretty strong backside connection with Nemesis, but apparently I think it's getting stronger now, because I showed you on the Enlil predictions, solar wind speeds getting pushed back from Nemesis, so it's only half what it should be, and the solar density is getting doubled because it's piling up. So running out of time, God bless. Peace, and I'm out.